Okay. So this is not my voice. So you, okay, I'm admitting, I will be admitting people as they come in the room. Please do not be distracted by that. And we will have Clara in this second panel first. Hugo, you will do the moderation and also a short presentation in the end. So, Hugo will explain his role in Lisbon City Council and the Lisbon City Council evolution and prospects for the next years. So stay until the end of the panel. We will do this short presentation, although it's not in the program. And now we'll have Clara. She probably needs to leave after the presentation because she will take the vaccine. And after that, we'll have Vasco, long-time knowledgeable person about the Lisbon situation here, and Anna, Laura, and then Enrico. And after Enrico, Hugo will present. So without further ado, Clara, por favor, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and thank you for understanding the situation. But right now, the vaccine is a priority, totally. So hello, guys, everybody. My name is Clara Sarmento, and I'm from the Center for Intercultural Studies of the Polytechnic of Porto. And today I'm going to share with you a little bit about our project, StreetArtCEI. So first, the context, what is StreetArtCEI? So this is a project held by the Center for Intercultural Studies of the Polytechnic of Porto, and we started in October 2017 as an open online repository of images and roots of graffiti and street art in Porto and in other medium-sized cities of northern Portugal. The main research areas within the project are cultural studies, media and visual studies, sociology, and anthropology. The project website, and you can see here the homepage, functions as a virtual museum and as a digital archive with more than 3,699 images collected up to the moment, up to the summer of 2021. And they have been distributed along 14 geographical routes, organized in 33 maps and 312 points of interest. These resources are intended to be used by visitors and by local communities alike, and also by educators, apart from being an open access database for scientific research. In brief, the project combines scientific research disseminated through the usual channels, conferences, papers, dissertations, essays, and the like, and we combine this scientific research with tourist appealing and user-friendly routes. Those geographical routes, let's start by them, they are organized as follows. So we have the routes in the city of Porto, and they are, as you can see, we have the route of Bolhão, Boa Vista, Constituição, Dragon Stadium, there is to say East Side Porto, Marquês, Sarmento, and Trindade, those landmarks. And then we also have the routes in Greater Porto, with outskirts and satellite cities, such as Vila do Conde, Senhora da Hora, Matosinhos, São Mamede em Festa, Maia, and Vila Nova de Gaia. And we also have a route in nearby city of Aveiro, 50 kilometers south of Porto. Here you can see some examples from those geographical routes as they are organized and presented to the visitor, to the viewer. You have here the interactive map of the route of Marquês in general, and then you have the several areas covered by each map of the route, because for technical reasons, each map can only include about a dozen points of interest. Then you click on the point of interest, and then you have the images like the ones that you have here from the points of interest, Rua da Fábrica Social and Rua das Carvalheiras, among others, from the area, from the wide area of Marquês. And as I was telling you, on each point of interest, you access the archive of the images that you can see there right now, or not any longer, but that had been registered at that point of interest as of October 2017. Another good example from the city center, again, you can see the map on the left side, the map of the route of Sarmento in general, and then you have the specific maps within and several points of interest, and a wonderful example of the Rua da Madeira and that piece of art by Azul. And last but not least, on the outskirts, a satellite city of Porto, Vila do Conde, you have again the map, the route across the area by the sea, of course, and one of the examples from a renowned point of interest painted on the walls of the city market. Saying this, what can we conclude? That through the roots of StreetArtCEI, works become accessible to the public, free from the constraints of time, space, and power, whether they are irreverent and illegal or ratified and commissioned by institutions, whether they stand in high visibility tourist spots or in remote alleys from the outskirts. In short, StreetArtCEI considers both legal and illegal, both marginal and commissioned street art works in equal terms, as the main purpose of the project is the creation of a significant corpus to enable further research and further reflection. So after this first stage of the project, we have also created 16 routes by author over the existing geographical routes that we have shared. And these routes by author, they also include 220 points of interest and 485 images. We consider authors those artists with a style and a signature that is recognized by the community in general, like Azul, Mr. Dale, The Caver, Rafi, Mask, Vils, and so on. And here you have also two examples, my favorite, Azul. As you can see, the route covers the whole area of Porto and also some outskirts of Porto, very complex, very rich. And you have here a wonderful example, the point of interest Miradouro da Vitória, with the landscape, the classical landscape. And another artist, not that prolific, but also very good as far as I'm concerned, Rafi, a female artist. And you have the map of her interventions, the artworks that you can see so far that have been mapped so far, and also one of her piece of work at the School of the Sea in a nearby area, in a fishing area nearby the city center. So this, the website of StreetArtCEI, there you can see that, and that routes undergo, of course, they have to undergo constant updates and technical corrections happening all the time. But the next stages of the project, they will cover other authors, other geographical routes, as well as thematic routes yet to be completed on topics like literature, the sea, social political causes, tributes to the city, among other patterns to be recognized, extracted, and analyzed. And we also have two ongoing parallel projects, one on roots of street music, and that sub-project, so to say, is also accessible at the website. And we have another one, a printed and online zine that is going to be launched in the fall and is edited by junior researchers of the project. Apart from this, the website also displays articles and books authored by the research team, and the clipping section that makes us very proud and contains the archives of the project's presence on national television, radio, and the printed press. As we work on an ephemeral art form, it goes without saying, the website includes a digital museum reserve under the option archive, with collections of works organized by location and date, all captured before the calendar year when the project started, and they have been donated by voluntary professionals and amateurs. Actually, as a project on art in the public space, the outputs of StreetArtCEI have also become public, freely available for consumption as they are, and likely to be appropriated by any group or individual. But to tackle the effects of COVID-19, StreetArtCEI has also, and is still currently developing, an award-winning spin-off project called Street Art Against COVID that registers the artworks that have appeared in the city during the 2 nationwide lockdowns. So, through the international reach of digital channels, the project proves or tries to prove that art, creativity, and the tourist potential of the region have managed to survive while reflecting the contingencies of history in the making. Moreover, the artworks displayed by Street Art Against COVID have a particular double transgressive nature, as they combine the fact of being, in most cases, illegal art forms with the fact that they were created during a time when citizens, including street artists, were supposed to be confined at home. The 7 routes of street art against COVID include Uptown, Boa Vista, Historical Center, Eastern Porto, Douro River, Matosinhos, and the National Health Service route, because this is a special route with artworks that pay tribute, an explicit tribute to frontline health workers, as one that you can see here by Mr. Dale. So in general, Street Art Against COVID displays 83 points of interest and 315 images at the moment, but they are in permanent update. Later, and hopefully very soon, when the pandemic is about to be over, these images will be merged into the main site, and the Street Art Against COVID subsite will remain as a museum, as a closed archive. Concerning, in general, our work methods, they involve photographing, categorizing, and extracting patterns of occurrence of street artworks that enable the creation of maps and routes. Data are organized in visual catalogs in the form of photo galleries, and access to data is grounded on a free web-based portal optimized for desktop and mobile devices. In order to be included in the project, works must first have been captured by the project staff as of October 2017, B, be visible to anyone with ordinary mobility in accessible and generally safe places, and integrate a pattern of geographical recurrence that justifies the creation of a point of interest or the inclusion in an already existent point of interest. Although the permanence of the work is impossible to assure by the nature of street art, the project selects supports that guarantee a minimum of stability. Therefore, for instance, we don't include works painted over mobile vehicles for the moment. StreetArtCEI also does not include monochromatic graffiti tags, as we see them as mere signatures, and this is arguable, we see them as mere signatures for the demarcation of a territory, without communicative purposes beyond the restricted circle of the crew. Conversely, the project includes signatures that combine colors, perspectives, dimensions, and/or textures, that is to say, that display a certain purpose of communicating an aesthetic message appealing to non-members of the crew, along with visual codified demarcation of the territory. The collected images are selected, georeferenced, and then generate maps that reveal patterns of spatial recurrence of artworks. Maps are compared with existing street maps, maps of urban transports and other public infrastructures in order to build a set of possible pedestrian and road paths. Then sections are organized around a recognizable and accessible spatial axis, like Bulhão, Marquês, and of course they are named accordingly. This process creates routes that a visitor may walk or drive along within a period of time of less than 12 hours under standard access conditions. The selected points of interest include diverse types of urban canvases, from commissioned murals to the facade of abandoned houses, from electrical boxes to major train stations. let's talk briefly about the impact stakeholders, a very fashionable word, and trying to conclude this presentation. Up to the present, fieldwork has been carried out in the city of Porto and also other cities of Greater Porto like Matosinhos, Vila Nova de Gaia, Vila do Conde, and Maia, and that accounts for a total of roughly 690,000 inhabitants, and we must add Aveiro with 55,000 inhabitants. So the project tries to grant visibility to local artists and communities in their symbolic interaction with the territory that is, as we know, threatened by mass tourism and gentrification. The project fosters the recognition of their creative value among multiple stakeholders, such as local municipalities, mainstream media, agents of local economy, art galleries, tourism agencies, and the scientific community to which we belong. In order to promote local tourism and the economy, some municipalities of Greater Porto have commissioned to us, to the crew of the project, some tailor-made routes of graffiti and street art, along with other routes of cultural and heritage tourism through their regions. At the same time, radio, television, and the printed media in general, they keep on referring the project extensively. Therefore, and you can access then the media clipping section, not only at the website, but also here at the presentation that I will be happy to share with you. So therefore, we can conclude that StreetArtCEI thrives inside of a paradox built by itself, because this is a project led by a public institution, we are public servants, that at the same time, the project collects, preserves, and legitimizes cultural products which damage public and private property, allegedly. We highlight the media's interest for the economic potential of the project, as well as for the appeal of the artists' personae, who are readily transformed into canonical authors. Concerning the reception by local powers, we emphasize their swift investment in the creation of local roots of graffiti and street art, that is to say, in artworks whose deletion, whose annihilation, those authorities are sponsoring at the same time. And this is a paradox by local institutions that reproduce the common need for domestication of irreverence and commodification of the illegal, a paradox that all those who are part of the project, all the intervenient actors are well aware of. StreetArtCEI's intercultural action takes place in a border zone between the legal and the illegal, where researchers, we, play the role of sort of a mediating agents, we create new discursive fields in permanent intersection. So, thank you so much for your attention. This is our website and the links, and please feel free to share your comments and questions. You have my email, even if I have to go away.
Thank you. Obrigado. Thank you very much, Clara.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if is there one fast question for Clara before she leaves. Okay, Anna, fast question, please.
Very fast. How do you manage the possibility of works being erased by removing rights from the city hall?
Oh, we simply try to rush as fast as possible and take the picture and put it on the website because this is an archive. So viewers, visitors, they are aware of the fact that the image that allegedly is there today may not be tomorrow. So more important than anything, this is a virtual museum. Okay. This is a collection for future generations. And then if visitors want to follow the routes, okay, it's up to them, it's their responsibility. We don't take responsibility for the fact that the artworks disappear. But this is actually a race against time and against the authorities. whenever we see a relevant artwork according to the criteria of the project that are arguable, that can be discussed, certainly, but we have to follow a methodology for inclusion. Whenever the crew, the staff of the project sees an artwork that is worth collecting, we just simply rush that because tomorrow is not there any longer, more often than not. And right now at this present stage, the Porto City Hall is taking a massive campaign of deletion, of erasing the interventions right now. I don't know what's happening. Perhaps we can interpret that, but right now that's what is happening at a very fast and I would say dramatic pace. So we have to rush.
And Mushka, I don't know. It's okay.
My question was the same as Anna. How do you manage the deleting?
Yeah,
Okay.
that is why we always emphasize this is a scientific project, a virtual museum, an archive, call it as you please. This is not a touristic project, okay? If you wanna use it as a touristic asset, okay, go for it. We are happy, okay? And this is good as well because we are hired by municipalities to create their own tailor-made routes. Okay, wonderful, they pay us. Thank you so much. But this is not a touristic project, scientific one, certainly, for the community, for generations to follow.
Okay. Thank you so much, Clara, for sharing.
Thank you, and thank you for understanding the issue. Oh my God, I'm going to wait for 4 hours. Okay, but anyways, now that's the average today. Thank you, I do need it. And I will be more than happy to send you if you want, the PowerPoint later, okay, so that you can share it with whoever might be interested. Okay, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
So, Vasco, can you step in? Are you around?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hola. Sim, Vasco. Hola.
Hello.
Go for it.
Okay, so my presentation, let me just share my screen with you. Here we go. Let's see if you can see it. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Good. So, word of warning, okay? I am not an academic. I am not a civil servant. I am not a representative of an organization. I'm just a guy that came across graffiti in the beginning of the 90s, had a camera and started shooting what I saw. As a matter of fact, I started to shoot what was happening, what was really the birth of graffiti in Lisbon and around Lisbon. And so my presentation today focus a little bit on my opinion and what I see with the evolution of street art in Lisbon from 1999 to 2021. So I'm going to talk a little bit, I mean, I'm not gonna bore you with...
In 15 minutes will be...
Yeah, I know. So I'm just gonna show some pictures and then talking about them. I'm not gonna bore you about how graffiti started in New York or Philadelphia or who was famous at the time or whatever. I just want to give a little bit of an insight that when graffiti started in Lisbon, it didn't start for the same reasons that it started in the United States. It didn't start because we were all living in a ghetto city where people didn't have jobs, or the kids were up to no good in the suburbs of New York. There were lots of gangs that used tagging to show that their territory was on that corner, and from that corner onwards, you could have a problem if you belong to another gang. You all know the story. If you are into graffiti and the evolution into what is known today as street art, you know all of this. So you know these people, you know the story of Taki 183, you know the tagging that started in the New York subways because they wanted the fame, they wanted to be recognized by their peers, not by the general public. And so it was like a very egocentrical activity. And so that's why my presentation is divided into two parts. The I wanna be adored is the part where graffiti started. Everyone wanted to do graffiti because of the fame. Everybody wanted to have their name spread around on a subway, on a wall. from New York to Lisbon, to Cascais, for example, you started to see these things happening, the trains starting to appear, some of the walls that were starting to be painted on underpassages, on public space, on walls that had a high visibility in the city. And so they started to replicate this because they saw what was happening. They read the magazines that were coming from France, from England, from the United States. They saw the breakdance movies. They talked with people that had that spent holidays outside of Portugal, and they were bringing this culture and this style and this new way of representing yourself within the urban tissue that was not being done at the time. So these were kids in the high school. These were kids in secondary schools. Okay, they had families. Some of them had strong family holds. They had strong ties with other people. So they were not disconnected from the reality. They were not disconnected from society. So they did it because they wanted to be famous. That's as simple as that. And these first pictures that I'm now showing you represent what I saw back in 94, 95, where they couldn't even have access to spray paint. Oops, sorry. So they would save their money from their food allowance or the money that the parents would give them to eat, not eat a lot, and then get that money to get 1 or 2 or 3 cans of spray paint that were used for the car industry. Okay, and that's how graffiti evolved. Now, this was one of the first pieces that I saw, and this was one of the pieces that made me start to photograph, okay, and document all that I was seeing. So this is 1994 near Carcavelos Beach, where I would spend my holidays, and to probably to some regret from my parents, I would spend my time, instead of being with them, just walking around, taking pictures of everything that was being done around. Now, there were already shops and friends and people paying these guys to do some work, okay? There was already money involved in this. So it's not a recent thing that artists would be commissioned to pay something. So here you see a picture from 1995 in a shop that was famous at the time, the Porfírios shop. Some of you know, some of you probably never heard of it, but they started to invite artists to go around and paint. Now, graffiti got to a stage where there were already a lot of people painting. There were groups that were very prolific. The quality was already very good, but there was no feedback from outside of Portugal, okay? Internet was in a very, very early stage. There was already the Art Crimes website, where people would see things from all over the world. And it was like an achievement to have a picture from Lisbon put on the Art Crimes website. And so it was like a personal victory. Now, the second part, this is really small, but the second part of my presentation is the evaluation of street art. So 1999 was a turning point on this, okay? The Oeiras City Hall organized the first international graffiti meeting. Lots of people from outside of Portugal came in. They checked how the graffiti was in Lisbon. And so this was like the first jump into quality of, or at least for me, in the reality of graffiti in our city. And so you had, for example, the first time that Gêmeos came to Portugal. So they did this wall in Escola de Carcavelos together with a lot of people, foreign and Portuguese. Then there were some copycats. Seixal municipality organized Seixal graffiti the next year, where they have a huge wall where more than 100 artists would be invited to paint together. The same afterwards with the city of Lisbon, for the first time in 2001, incorporating graffiti into the Festas de Lisboa, into the big happening in Lisbon in June, and where again we have a lot of international artists coming in and painting in the Cais do Sodré area, in the area where now you have the boat station to Almada. It was called Cais do Gás, so there was a big warehouse where a lot of international artists and also Portuguese artists came to paint. I'm sure Pedro is reminiscing on these pictures from 2001. Then in 2003, Portugal was included in the Meeting of Styles. We organized a huge wall in Caldas da Rainha. Sorry, that was, yeah, I'll show it later. Caldas da Rainha, in a wall that today still exists, but it's inside a secondary school. The wall obviously faded, but you can still see these things. And then comes the big change. We are talking about graffiti as people getting together to paint, organizing events, graffiti jams like we call them, where lots of people would come in from all over the country and outside of Portugal to see what was going on, to learn the new styles, to see other people painting. And then you had a big shift, okay? In 2008, Galeria de Arte Urbana was created. 2009, Montana Shop Lisbon was opened. 2010, the Chrono program started to happen. So this was one of the biggest shifts in the street art world in Lisbon. You had events that would get people together to paint, and then you started to have regular visits from people from outside of Portugal, and also the intervention of city halls, inviting specific artists to intervene in the city, okay? And so I'm just showing you a couple of pictures of walls that still exist, others that don't exist anymore, just to give you that, the idea of what was happening 10 years after the first international graffiti meeting, okay? So Lisbon became a center point in the world map of cities where you should go to see street art.
You have 3 minutes, Vasco.
Okay, all right, I'll speed it up. Now, I'm just going quickly to go into this. Then we have a shift in the paradigm for today's events. Today, you are looking at city halls trying to get notoriety from the street art, organizing big spaces like Lachlan was saying about Melbourne. And I was really happy when he said that in Melbourne, he was trying to get away from the monumental arts, because today, all you see is monumental arts. You lost the gathering of the artists. The young talent don't know who to talk to. They don't know how to paint together with the people that made history in the street art world. And that for me is a little bit of a shame, okay? I'm always constantly seeing the same names throughout the cities in Portugal, and I don't see artists actually taking time to make, for example, a graffiti event, a jam where they can invite other people. I know you're gonna say to me that, for example, Gau created a wall in Lumiar where people can join and paint, but it's not the same thing. We are looking at a huge visibility that the city halls and the companies want to have, And that visibility is taking away the creativity away from the game. The new talent is not being able to get in these things. Over and over, you get the same sort of artists, but at the same time, you are not getting changing of this kind of paradigm. There is no events for new talent to paint. There's no people to collaborate to. And so a little scenes, I mean, this is from, you know, this weekend, for example. So Lisbon is continuing to do this. But what I want to say is scenes like this, walls that are being painted spontaneously or organized by graffiti artists for graffiti artists are not happening anymore. And for me, that is a real shame. And it will probably show in the future a little lack in creativity in our street art world. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Vasco. I don't know if there are any fast questions to Vasco. Certainly, okay. Ana, Gariso? Gariso?
Gariso.
Desculpa.
Não faz mal. Okay, Vasco.
Vasco Rodrigues.
I just lost Vasco for a moment because I have a huge gallery of small faces in my screen. I just have two very fast questions. The first one is about the Wall of Fame in Namoreiras. I don't know if people are still gathering there to paint. And the second one is, it seems to me that most of the monumental walls are more and more often being painted by people who had training in design, illustration, paint, fine arts, architecture, and less by kids that start painting illegally on the streets. And I feel there's some kind of, I don't know if this happens globally, but at least in Lisbon, it looks like there's a block between, there's no like mobility between the streets and then the paid work for paid artists. I mean, it's kind of hard to build a career when you start from a very low spot. And you are more connected to these people than I am. I'm just an aspiring academic. So I would really like to hear your insights about this. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your question. The Amoreiras Wall of Fame is still used. It has its ups and downs, okay? But for example, if you are a young kid and you want to paint, you buy your cans. Obviously, where you buy your cans, you can always ask where is a good spot to paint. They will probably tell you 2 or 3 spots. One of them, Elevador da Glória, where Gal created Largo da Oliveirinha, where you can paint and no one hassles you. And Amoreiras, because it's still illegal to paint. It's not a legalized wall, but with years and years and years of painting, it's become a traditional get point for people to paint. So yes, it's still painted. What I'm seeing is that it's less and less organized by a huge quantity of artists to go there and paint. You can probably have a crew of 3 or 4 or 5 that get together there and paint a large portion of the wall, but a huge event where you would get the community participating, it's not happening. With what you are saying about people from outside of the street world, outside of the graffiti world, coming into these monumental pieces, you are absolutely right. It's something that myself, I don't understand as well, because like I said in my presentation, very, very quickly, the roots of street art will be lost. And I understand why city halls go for those kinds of artists, because they are guaranteed a good press clipping. They are guaranteed a good piece on the wall. They are guaranteed a good 5 minutes of fame on the television. But if they don't promote also what other people are doing, you will get the reverse which is young talent not being able to get into that circuit. So what's gonna do? That's gonna be a backlash. There's gonna be a rise in vandalism because they don't understand why they are not being invited for that. And so they will deface the walls. And you can see that in other cities.
Okay, thank you, Vasco. I think we will have more dialogue about this, mainly also because Hugo is around and in a hot spot position because he needs to manage both sides and the complexity of it all, and we will hear how is the strategy to deal with it. Of course, next we will have the comparison between Lisbon and Porto, precisely by Ana Gariso and Luísa Castro. And so please go forward.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. I hope you're having a very nice morning. We are Ana Musca, it's me, although it's not my real name, and Ana Gariso. We both did our master thesis and are currently doing our PhD studies about street art. Recently, we joined our knowledge to write an article and do this presentation about the contrast of urban art public management in Porto and Lisbon in the past decade. To start, we believe it's important to understand the differences of graffiti and street art or urban art. As everyone here knows, there is no universal consensus about the exact definition of each one. So in our study, we decided to divide them into these two groups. We made this division, but the truth is that these fields merge so many times and in so many ways, like artistic careers, in art galleries, in the news, among others, making it almost impossible to say that someone does only graffiti or only urban art. So, although there is this fine line separating these two art forms, the way cities all over the world manage them is now very common among them. In one hand, they treat graffiti as vandalism, and on the other hand, they treat urban art as something to cherish. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. Our presentation today is focused on these two cities. I will be talking about Porto up in the north, which is the second biggest city in Portugal, and Ana Gariso is going to focus on Lisbon, the capital and the most developed city in the country. In Porto, graffiti appeared in the 90s, a bit later than in Lisbon, and had its rise in the start of the millennium. I'm going to show you a brief timeline of what happened in Porto in the last decade, the years that our study is focused on. The most significant year is 2013, where I start here, when a new legislation is approved in Portugal that prohibits graffiti and street art, imposing fines from 100 euros to 25,000 euros. In the same year, Porto creates a cleaning brigade, erasing all the street art in the city, and imposes new taxes for urban art, making it very hard to legalize murals. Thankfully, in 2014, there's a new start. The city administration changes and the new mayor is openly supportive of urban art. In this year alone, a big street art exhibition happened, a festival is approved, and the urban art program is created. In the following years, we can see a progressive downfall of legal murals painted in a city. There were, of course, projects like Locomotiva and Alumia, but most of them are installations, so I consider them more temporary public art and not urban art or street art as we are here talking about and studying. Coincidence or not, this year were municipal elections, to which the new mayor even hired the local street artist to paint his campaign space. After this year, unfortunately, there was again a big decrease in initiatives. Actually, I find that 0 murals were painted by the City Hall from 2017 to 2020. And then again, this year, 2021, a year of municipal elections again, the urban art program organizes the painting of 7 big murals in only half a year. Maybe this has something to do with the new administration that Philippe was talking about before, and having Azul as a curator. But we see that 2021, this year, there are big changes happening. With this simple timeline, it's very easy to see the difference in the two administrations in charge of the city of Porto in the last 10 years. The past president completely banned graffiti and street art. He was even proud to announce how much money he spent on erasing graffiti each year, and how these actions made the city more clean and livable. And with the new president, street art was put up on a pedestal. He used it to promote his campaign, was present on mural openings, and even gave interviews saying amazing things about urban arts. Besides these huge contrasts in the two administrations, there's also a big difference on how it's talked about and managed. On the newspapers, they always talk about cleaning the graffiti and how much it costs, so like a negative thing. And on the other hand, they talk about urban art as something positive for the cities, making them more beautiful, cultural, creative, etc. The city departments in charge of managing these two practices are also very different. The graffiti is cleaned by the environment department, the one in charge of cleaning gutters, trash, and all that. And the street art is managed by a public-private company called Agora that has the urban art program that's responsible for all these artistic initiatives. Besides the murals promoted by this department, it's very hard to legalize street art in Porto. The communication with Agora is not that easy, either by private companies like the one I work at, or by artists. And it's expensive to make it possible because officially you have to pay the city taxes and all the materials to create a big mural in the city of Porto. These are the steps to legalize a big mural in the city. First, you need to have the owner's permission in written. Then you need to create a sketch that pleases both the owner of the building and the city hall. Then you go, in this case, to Agora and ask for the permission to paint it with the necessary documentation. Then you would have to pay the city taxes, unless they say that you don't have to pay them, but that's their decision. Officially, you should have to pay them. And then you need to buy the materials, rent the scaffolding and all that, and then actually paint the mural. In this way, my opinion, most artists, it's so hard that most artists just do it illegally and do smaller things with less time. So this was Porto. Now I give space to Anna to talk about Lisbon and the comparison between the two cities.
Thank you, Anna. Hello, everyone. I will present some highlights about Lisbon because there is a lot of initiatives and we don't want to be very exhaustive. The first moment I have to underline is obviously the creation of GAU, Urban Art Gallery, in 2008. It was part of a large erasing action of illegal graffiti and intended to establish a negotiation, a dialogue with the graffiti and street art community by providing the first legal walls where you could paint for freely in Lisbon. The structure, this urban art gallery, is part of the City Council under the Department of Cultural Heritage. So this was clearly the first step to institutionalize and legitimize street art as urban art, as a cultural element of the city. In 2010, I think it's important to highlight the creation of Underdogs Gallery, which was founded by Vils and Pauline Fossel, because they also play since then an important role in the production of urban art in Lisbon, also as a GAU partner, frequent partner, but not only. Then I would say that GAU's initiatives like Chrono, Vasco already talked about it, and Às 5 no Mercado, for example, are the beginning of a public art program for urban art in Lisbon. And this started to create the perception of these practices as legitimate and valuable artistic work for the first time, and started to build an image of Lisbon as a dynamic, creative, inclusive young, cosmopolitan, multicultural city. Then in 2016, GAU created Festival Muro and started to work with specific communities and neighborhoods in more peripheral areas of the city, while developing a set of different initiatives through the year, including the publication and free distribution of a magazine about urban art that kept going from 2012 until 2018, also including Lisbon walls in the Google Art project. Then in 2018, we had the first edition of Festival Iminente in Lisbon, promoted by Underdogs with GAU as a partner. This festival contributed for the recovery of Panoramic de Monsanto, a very iconic place in the city that is now part of Lisbon's life again. And we had a few more editions of these festivals until COVID-19 sent us all home. Festival Muro just came back and is happening right now, and hopefully there will be more opportunities in the future for these kinds of events. So just like Ana said about Porto, the same thing can be observed about Lisbon when we look for news online using different search terms, and when the subject is graffiti, usually the content is about the amounts expended in cleaning, removing, erasing illegal graffiti from walls and train cars or subway cars. And the positive content news usually refer urban art or street art and are about new walls, events, interviews with artists, or positive impacts of certain programs or initiatives. These differences we see in media discourses are obviously a reflection of the structure itself. Also, like in Porto, there is a structure to promote and manage urban art that is part of the cultural heritage team, and illegal interventions are cleaned by the urban hygiene unit that refers graffiti and paste up removal together with pest control, gutter cleaning, trees and bush trimming, and so on. So it's more or less the same thing in this case. To escape these cleaning actions and legalize any intervention, you need to undergo a very complex process that demands you to submit a proposal to GAU with details like the place, the date where you preview to be working on that wall, all the details of your project, including a sketch, pictures, even a mock-up that shows how will it be in the end, your portfolio, and then GAU analyzes all these materials and it will consult other structures involved, and only when everyone has a positive feedback will your proposal be approved. Then, like in Porto, you will have legal permission to do it, but at your own expenses. However, in the case of Lisbon, there are no taxes charged. So, of course, there is a difficult balance between promoting, regulating, prohibiting, and erasing, and that permanent negotiation is managed differently in each city, with each administration, and varies according to other aspects of public management, such as the organization of large events, the influx of tourists, inscription as heritage of certain buildings or areas of the cities, the social and economic situation, among other factors, and they all take part in the construction of different territories and visualities, of which graffiti and street art or urban art are today a global and undeniable presence. In conclusion, we can say that Porto and Lisbon have similar approaches regarding some aspects, like the separation between cleaning units and the ones responsible for the management and promotion of urban art programs. They both have this intention to self-promote as modern creative cities to attract tourists or investors or new inhabitants, using urban art as a sign of creativity and youthfulness. And what we see that may be the most distinct aspect is that, in fact, GAU is part of the City Hall structure and PAU is a public-private company. And we have to recognize that GAU has a constant regular work promoting urban art, creating different initiatives and associating with different partners. And also GAU seems to be open to artists, communities, and also to the academy, as we can see by the presence of our colleague here today, Hugo. So it's slightly more positive than we would say about Porto public art program in terms of urban art. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very good. It was very refreshing, and it was kind of an interesting package of observation. It was really good. Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if there are some direct questions to our speakers. Anna, Anas? Yeah. And if not, I would because it makes all the sense now at this moment to give voice to Hugo, and I think he will be able to somehow reply to questions of Vasco and also of this presentation of Diana's. Maybe I give you now the 15 minutes, Hugo. It makes more sense, I think, and then we move forward for the rest of the panel. Okay, Hugo.
Thank you. I really had a presentation, but there's a lot of questions that were spoken. I think it's really interesting because for the last 2 years, that's exactly the questions that we in the City Council are dealing with. We gather some of the communities in which we work from street art and graffiti, and we were just saying that we don't need huge walls also in Lisbon. We need small walls so that people so that the community can gather in and as Vasco said, and the idea was that that's what we are now constructing in Lisbon. Vasco told about the Lumiar, but let me just go on towards another thing. I think many of what we are seeing is that Ana Gariso and Vasco are talking about the media and the news that enhanced the monumental works that are done in Lisbon. And there's more walls to paint now. There's more spaces to paint, and we are constructing an infrastructure on which we should have in 2022 40 or 50 places like that, like in Lumiar. And we are constructing that with the community, with the graffiti community, those that are already established, and they have other commissions and they still paint small pieces, but also with the community that is starting now. So that's the point where urban art or the urban art gallery is on this spot. It is, how can we create public space so that anybody can create, anybody can paint, anybody can just walk through, and without any commission, without any mediation. And the spaces for public art now, like Calçada da Glória and Lago da Oliveirinha, we don't have any need to see and to have mock-ups so that any artist can paint there. And there's now in the city 6-7 spaces where you can create that. And the project for the next year is just to create 40 or 50 spaces like that, so that anybody can walk through and anybody can paint. Nevertheless, we are dealing always with the information that you showed, like Vasco and Ana showed the information that is on the news, that is on the media, and the media enhances just the large and monumental works that are done. I think there's a balance that you can do. You can have commission and the monumental, and you can have those spaces, no monumental, no commission, no mediation to walk through. So that's what we think, and the strategy in Lisbon is to create more and more space for that, and even to balance with and it's an ongoing conversation. Even Pedro knows about that conversation that we have with our urban hygiene department, so that we can have more resources than them. That's our struggle in the city council. For us, the Department of Culture is how can we balance our work with we call it the anti-graffiti brigade. You know, that those guys, and even they do an artistic job also in the city. If you walk through, it's kind of an anti-style program that they have. But this is the space where we are. How can we create more space, and how can we create more room for people to come to work, to paint in the city? And that's our way to see urban art, graffiti, street art, which genealogy you can use on the artistic level, even to create a more bounding space in between public art and street art. That's the strategy that we are running now. We have a group of work in public art to be able to create an umbrella for all public art to be, well, to appear not to have like a difference. So this is the question mark. Even though I will enhance this, it is very hard to be able to create room in the media, in the rooms, because in the last 2 years there was a lot of initiatives that we did in Amoreiras. Amoreiras, I wouldn't say it's not the Hall of Fame. There's another Amoreiras on Rua nearby, near the EPAL, and the graffiti community work with us so that it is not legal, but we pass all the time declarations so that they can gather and paint there. And there's like 10 spaces where they can paint. So that's we think that's the roots and the path to be able to create more room, and to do not have afraid to talk about graffiti, like probably some of us still have, that graffiti is not a form of art. For us, it's all the expressions that we can use, and to level it with all that is cultural heritage, architecture, tiles, pavement, well, you name it. We are cultural heritage, and we don't make that space in between monumental or street art, graffiti, urban art. So we are leveling it, and well, our focus is to create more space for that expressions to be in the city.
So I step forward with one question. You have, for instance, identified that you have a problem there with media, for instance, when you try to promote things that are not monumental, they do not have traction within the media. That's your feeling.
It's not just in the media, even in the community. Even in the community that sees these spaces. We have sometimes you work with in Graça, that is on the city, in the center of the city, and you have like this kind of Hall of Fame in Jardim da Cerca da Graça that it's run by José Arva and by Yes You Can Spray, there are a lot of spaces where those kind of expressions and projects happens. But there's no traction in media, but there's no traction also within the community. I think Vasco said something that it works all for us all. The community that started these projects has changed, and you now seen a lot of people just coming out of fine art school, architecture or design schools, and suddenly they are on the streets working. And that's not the same path as some of our writers from the 90s, like Day and Norman. They started out to do, it's like the path of rocks, nós dizemos em português, o caminho das pedras. Today it's less difficult to go on the street and to paint, and there's a lot of newcomers that come from different places.
Maybe Anna?
Yeah, I have two questions. The first one is I used to collaborate with Yes You Can Spray, and by the time we used to paint in Calçada da Glória, they said you had to like book with GAU, and you couldn't just get there with your cans of spray and paint at your own will. So I got this information from them. Just about Calçada da Glória, and you were saying, about the public speech in the media speech. I didn't rely much on the media speech. I just one or two news where GAU's representatives were interviewed, and usually the concern we can notice in the speech is that there's always this clear line between what's graffiti or what's vandalism and what is urban art. And also in the GAU's official website, the kind of speech we can see there, it's more or less the same. There's a very strict line between these things, and so the kind of details I included in our presentation were mostly from GAU's website, not from media. So maybe you have the right intentions, and I believe you do, but you are not communicating effectively, at least through your website. I believe that I believe that maybe the perception is not right, but let's be clear, I don't have a negative impression about your work, just the opposite. We were just reflecting on the contrast between these two cities, because we can identify that there is a clear gap between what's being made in Porto and Lisbon, and Lisbon is like the good example to follow in this case. But there's always space to improve. And yes, of course, that I understand that, and I said it, this is a permanent negotiation and a very hard balance to manage, but it's good to know that there will be more legal walls, and maybe the official speech of GAU is not reaching as it should, reaching out as it should, in my opinion.
Let me just, the website, it's wrong. Well, it's not wrong, but we haven't changed because the strategy, we are still well, burilando, I don't know how do we say, we are still constructing and closing that strategy. We are, and the community knows that we have now more spaces, and we don't have a mock-up for Calçada da Glória in 3 years. And it's not just for the Largo das Largo Oliveirinha, because for the first years, Largo do Oliveirinha was the space where anybody could paint without a mock-up, and Calçada da Glória stayed as a more official with mock-ups and more. It's not for 3 years that is not run up by that. Anyone that shows interest in painting in Lisbon, we just point towards that direction, and we have been dealing with that to see how it is and how this commission or not curating and not seeing the projects has been so far, and that leads us to create the street art park in Lumiar, and to create more spaces like the one in Amoreiras near Epal. It's small spaces, not huge spaces that you can just run and spend an afternoon with your friends, or to create a meeting of styles, or like in Graça exists, in Jardim da Cerca da Graça. So that's the path that we are now under construction, and that's that would be the project that we would launch after the huge and monumental that has room in media, and in September, October, we'll be launching the free painting murals in Lisbon. We have now another one in Parque das Nações, where anybody could paint, but we are like constructing the infrastructure in Lisbon, so that we can that we can say in all the city that we can paint all over those places. So that's the idea of being able to work things out.
Thank you so much. We have more geographies to visit. We need to go to a comparison study from Mexico and Spain, but we will keep in touch. So we will still be on this panel. You can put questions to Hugo and Anas if you want about these two presentations and questions and answers. And so I move forward for the next presentation of Laura. Laura Rodrigo, are you around?
Yes, I'm in charge, Carmen Moral, to presentation the Laura and Adris.
Okay.
Okay.
So please move forward and show us your study. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, can you see the presentation? Sorry.
Yes, it's good.
So I have here. Well, good afternoon. The following presentation has been prepared by Laura Luque, Adris Diaz, who are located in the room, and myself, Carmen Moral. I am going to be in charge of presenting this paper entitled Comparative Analysis of Urban Art Cataloging Projects in the city of Monterrey, Mexico, and Jaén, Spain, a proposal for the inclusion for communities. We would like, first of all, to thank the organization for accepting this communication. The task of cataloging artistic work is the basis for research, dissemination, and conservation of pieces from any period. The catalog becomes even more essential in the case of ephemeral works, as it will probably be the only early record that will remain of the piece of art. This is why in recent years, the cataloging of street art has been a concern for some research groups. As you can see on the screen, these are an example of the 3 most relevant contributions still in progress, and this proposal wanted to carry out a comparative analysis of 2 real cataloging projects. Okay. The 2 projects are Painting on the Wall, a study of wall paintings in the province of Jaén in the 20th and 21st century, financed by provincial government of Jaén, Spain, developed between December 2020 and October 2021. This project, cataloging both commissioned and independent street art work in the province with a team of 4 researchers and a grant holder. The second one, the commissioned street art murals creation of the Cultural Artistic Festival of Urban Expression, Callejenera, financed by promotion of cultural projects and co-investment, and developed between 2019 and 2021, has worked with the identification, description, and cataloging of the artworks created in the Monterrey Callejenera Festival, Mexico, with a team of 4 researchers and 3 grant holders. The Spanish project was carried out in the province of Jaén, located in the northeast of the autonomous region Andalusia, in the south of Spain. It is a territory that is mostly devoted to agriculture, in particular the production of olive oil, with a rich cultural heritage, and the work has been carried out for the project in different locations, all of them no longer than 400 square kilometers away, and with problems of unemployment and population. However, Monterrey is the capital of the state of Nuevo León, located in the northwest of Mexico. It is characterized by being an industrial city. It is the second biggest business and financial center of the country, and therefore the second richest. Its population exceeds 1 million inhabitants, and the differences in terms of surface area and number of inhabitants, and their different situation in terms of development of street art, have conditioned the working methods in each of the areas studied. In Jaén, Spain, over the last 2 decades, there has been a clear increase in the development of street art, and especially of commissioned street art murals, notably in the city of Linares, thanks, as you see on the screen, to the artist Belim. On the other hand, since 2011, the Callejenera Urban Expression Festival has been held in the city, organized by the Nuevo León Council for Art and Culture, CONARTE. The Callejenera Festival is symbolized by the events that take place on the city streets. Okay. When compared, we can see that both projects prioritize creating a registration system. The methodological development was considered both a priority and a result in itself. The comparison of projects can create an improved project better than all individualized. Okay. The 2 projects are similar in working method, starting with a literature and newspaper article review that gives way to field work, coming into direct contact with the artworks, developing the cataloging tool, and finally dissemination. They differ in that while the Spanish project has mainly focused on working with the artworks, state of conservation, urban context, etc., the Mexican project has further included the artists and even neighbors in the work process. The Spanish project lacks more importance to the context and the people, and the Mexican project lacks more importance to the material and technical aspect. In the case of the Mexican project, the selection of works was clear. Those were commissioned by the Callejenera Festival. In the case of Spain, it was more complex because it was intended to give a general overview. So no selection of works have been made, not considering in the same way writing graffiti, spontaneous street art, and commissioning muralism. For graffiti, pieces, throw-ups, etc., we studied the neighborhoods in which it is distributed, which names are most repeated, etc., at a general level. For spontaneous street art and public muralism, cataloging seats have been drawn up for each work, not in the case for graffiti. The cataloging card used in a Spanish project is based on the card drawn up by María Isabel Úbeda García and published in G Conservación in 2016. For example, we cover areas like technical and formal details, ownership, geolocation, iconography, style, context, conservation and restoration, interviews, photogrammetry, etc. The section were left open except for materials, support, and orientation, which were filled in using thesauruses. The street art database of Monterrey and its metropolitan area is an organized collection of information concerning the image, including details regarding the work of the artist, and it's stored digitally in the cloud and on a computer system. This digital registry seeks to record from an art perspective this activity in the city and to recognize the participation of its creators and the topic of interest covered. Significant differences can be observed when comparing the two proposals. On the one hand, the Spanish form is focused on technical aspects and the artwork itself, while on the other hand, the Mexican form is focused on the artist's work, and it is even the artist themselves who must fill it in. In addition, the first project's form is internal and intended for academic use, whereas the Monterrey project was always intended to be accessible to the public. We believe that mixing the two will result to a complete project with a greater impact. The result obtained in both projects point in two directions. On the one hand, to the advances made in terms of the design of a tested method and the street art cataloging tool, and on the other hand, to the results provided by the different towns obtained thanks to their artwork and artists. The Spanish project has made more than 100 street art information sheets in the capital city, another 100 in Linares, plus a smaller number in Bailén, Úbeda, and other towns. In addition, an analysis of the graffiti and advertising murals were carried out, and 2,000 artist information sheets were made, most of whom were also interviewed. As for Mexican project, 89 murals made by local and international artists have been recorded. 24 of these walls have been erased by now. And in each city, there are some context, specific thematic and aesthetic differences. In this respect, we have proposed a working method which is detailed in the following stages. Stage 1, literature review and collection of information and documentation, looking at academic publication and social networks, and especially newspaper articles. Stage 2, field work, taking photographs of the context of the artwork and artwork itself, detailing possible deterioration and damage in terms of the state of conservation, using photogrammetry where necessary, and writing down the coordinates. And stage 3, working with the artist, carrying out life history interviews, also devoting to technical questions. And finally, stage 4, uploading the artwork and artist biography files to an open consultation system, linking each file to a specific user context, an era, catering for searches by artists, by stages, typology, etc. Well, it's not a secret that the street artless people feel like they own a specific space. This is why the Monterrey project, the Mexican project, is also working on creating research tools aimed at evaluating the impact this has. For example, observations checklist, interview question, indication of management of focus group, questionnaires, semiotic analysis of image, and social spatial analysis, another someone. Okay. The main obstacle is how to collect the information of the significance of each art work for the community. One way could certainly be by social media, but this does create certain problems. Will not only be the opinion of those who live alongside the artwork in question. Moreover, social networks are by no means used to the same extent across different age groups, so we could only get a partial view. And finally, the speed at which other new social networks are appearing and rapidly catching on means that it is becoming increasingly difficult to compile this collection. Another possibility will be to carry out surveys, more importantly, interviews with these people. Perhaps it will also be interesting to go to school and training centers in order to widen the age range, or go to neighborhood associations. In addition, it will be interesting to find a way to include objective information in a short closed section. It could be complex, but possible. We can conclude that these two projects have advanced not only in terms of the knowledge of street art and commissioned street art murals in their respective regions, but also in terms of how to record such complex expressions. There is still a lot of work to be done, especially in terms of how to work on the significance of the works. Thank you very much. And I'm here for question on something.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you so much. I don't know if is there some direct question to Carmen. If not, we'll move forward to Enrico, and then maybe in the end we can have a little time for questions and answers. Thank you so much, Carmen.
Thank you very much.
Enrico, please.
Hello, hello.
And now for a totally different approach.
Yes, I'm going to talk about copyright in street art and some new cases that I'm looking at. And so, can you see the slides, by the way?
Yes, it's working. Yes.
Okay, good. I'm just going to put it bigger. Okay, so litigating copyright in street art. I'm presenting you cases today where street artists have started legal actions against, in one case, against a politician in France, and another case in that French litigation has been decided last January, and the second case I want to talk about is a pending case, so just started a few months ago, by an Italian artist, Alessia Bravo, against the Vatican City in Rome. So the Vatican City is the defendant there. So these are two cases where the politician in the first and the Vatican in the second have used wet paste, so posters, made and placed by two artists in Paris in the first case and in Rome in the second case. Well, the most important issues in both cases is the violation of the so-called moral right of integrity of an artist. What is the moral right of integrity? It's the right that every artist has to object to any treatment of their artwork which is prejudicial to their honor and reputation. This is what the law says. So you paint a canvas, if someone, you know, uses that canvas in a way which is derogatory, right? Which ridiculize the artist and which is capable of prejudicing, jeopardizing his or her reputation or honor, well, this is a violation of the moral right of integrity, which in some cases may also trigger some compensation, monetary compensation, right? As we will see in the two cases I'm going to talk, this is the central issue, but not the only issue. Then there is another moral right which is offered to artists, the right of attribution, no, the right of paternity or maternity. So basically the right to be recognized as the author, as the artist, of the father or mother of that particular artwork. Well, there is a violation of this attribution right if someone, for example, uses the artwork without acknowledging properly the authorship, who the artist is, right? And then, of course, beside and beyond the moral rights, there are also economic rights. So the right to prevent others from making money out of the artwork, right? This is the general legal landscape in favor of artists. So now we are going to see how such law has been applied in one case, which has been decided, and the other case is still pending, okay? So let's start with the French case. Here you have an artwork by Combo. Combo is a French artist based in Paris. And basically what happened here is that the artist Combo made this wet paste, this poster, and they placed it in Paris. And as you can see, this is a large wet paste on the wall of a college, Gustave Flaubert College in Paris, depicting a representation of Marianne. Marianne is the national personification of the French Republic, right? It's the own interpretation, Combo's, the artist's own interpretation of this Marianne. Well, by taking you know, an image which evokes the French Revolution, well, the artist wanted to send a message, right? Wanted to reappropriate the tricolor, the flag, the spirit of the Republic, in order to prevent far-right parties, you know, to use the tricolor, the French flag as a way to promote, you know, radical views, xenophobic opinions, and so on and so forth, right? So what happened here is that for the 2017 French presidential election, you remember when Macron won, right? Macron was challenged by Marine Le Pen on the right and Mélenchon on the left, on the far left. Well, what happened is that the far left candidate, Mélenchon, and his political party, La France Soumise, right? They incorporated in several videos, promotional political videos, La Marianne Asiatique. This was La Marianne Asiatique because it takes the shapes of a woman from Asian origin. So I'm gonna now try to play this video. Let's see, just a second.
That's the tricky part, always.
Yeah, probably it's because I haven't. Okay, no, I'm gonna. No worries. I'm gonna take it from the internet. So if you be patient for 1 minute, it worked just a few minutes ago, but no worries. I'm gonna take it here. Mélenchon combo. Look, Mélenchon combo. Here we are. 1 second. Mélenchon combo 2017. No, I can't find it. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry about that. But
maybe you can narrate what happened in the video.
Okay. In this video, in this promotional video, the artwork was incorporated in the first seconds. So for just 6-7 seconds at the beginning of the video, you can see the artwork being shown, and then all the narrative by this politician, and this party, in favor of the working classes, against the globalization, the typical far left, policies that were promoted, let's say. So the artist Combo did not like to be associated with any kind of political party. So what he did was to take a legal action against both the politician Mélenchon and his party for alleged violation of the economic and moral rights of the artist himself, right? Well, here one may say surprisingly, the Paris court last January sided with Mélenchon and this political party by saying, first of all, there is no violation of the integrity right. Well, here we need also to look at the nature of street art, said the court. Street art is due to be ephemeral, to disappear, and also Mélenchon and his party cannot be accused of having distorted the message sent by the artist. Why? Because Mélenchon in his promotional videos was basically sending a message, was using the artwork to send a message which was quite similar to the message originally conveyed by the artist, right? Against against far right policies. The far left is quite anti-far right. So basically the judge here took into account that basically the political views of the artist and Mélenchon, the appropriator, were quite similar. And the context used in which the artwork was used by the politician was not so different from the context originally chosen by the artist. Obviously, here the artist was quite disappointed because, still believed that his artwork could not be used without authorization by any kind of politician, right wing, left wing, or in the center, doesn't matter, right? And as far as the economic rights are concerned, well, here the decision of the court was quite reasonable, I guess, because Mélenchon and his party did not really use this artwork for commercial purposes. It was a political use, right? They did not make money out of the incorporation of this artwork into the video, into the promotional video. So in this case, I kind of agree with the decision of the judge. With reference to the integrity right, the alleged violation of the right of integrity, I have some doubts, because it's quite let's say stretched to say that since the artist basically is also left, does have left opinions, he needs or she needs to accept the unauthorized political use of his artwork. I mean, I'm not quite convinced that this is the right decision. But with reference to the economic rights, I think the court got it right. So this was the first case, decided last January. We don't know if the artist will appeal the decision. We'll see. The second case I want to talk about.
Let's go to Vatican.
Let's go to the Vatican. Here you can see this artist, Alessia Bravo, I think she's half Italian, she's half from New Zealand, I guess. And what she did, she basically she created and then placed in Rome this Jesus, her own interpretation of Jesus Christ, of course. So basically, this is a reinterpretation of a painting by a 19th century artist, German artist, Hoffmann, depicting Jesus Christ. And she superimposed the anatomic image of a heart, adding the message, just use it, okay? Just use it. So basically, what happened here was that the Vatican City, a few months later, produced a stamp, right? A stamp, you know, the stamp that you use for mailing, right? For sending letters. Basically reproducing this artwork. What they did is someone took a picture. I'm not sure if a cardinal took a picture, but someone for the press office or no, from the Vatican took a picture of the artwork, and they used such picture to devise this new stamp, right? Well, the artist was quite surprised, and she argued that associating her piece with the Catholic Church irremediably distorted the message that she wanted to convey to the public. Indeed, what she meant to do with their original work was to denounce certain excesses of any religious faith, not only Catholicism. And she wanted to urge viewers to adopt a more critical and reflective stance towards dogmatic religious truths, okay? So this was the main claim. And the case is still pending, and she has asked more than 130,000 euros as a compensation for the damages, because she also tried to settle the case before starting the action. She wrote a letter, her lawyer wrote a letter to the Vatican by saying, look, stop, because you are selling a stamp exploiting my artwork. So not only the violation of the moral right of integrity was is invoked, but also the violation of the economic rights, because the Vatican is making money by selling these stamps. No? Some of them, they're quite valuable because there is a kind of collection frenzy. You know? There are collectors of stamps. So it's an economic activity. You know? We know that the Vatican, you know, they do often conduct economic activities as well. So this is the case. A pending, has been just started a few months ago. We'll see if they either settle the case, probably with the payment of a sum to the artist, or if the judge sooner or later will release a decision. So these cases, very recent ones, are quite similar, especially as far as the moral right of integrity is concerned. And the very issue goes at the heart of what street art is, and what street artists want to send, which kind of message they want to send. In my opinion, I would be so strict. I am in favor of an interpretation of the moral right of integrity, which is quite broad. I want to protect the message which is conveyed by the artist, in this case, street artist, with his or her own artwork. I don't like the idea that a politician, even if has the same ideas as the artist, or a state, because the Vatican is a state. I don't like the idea of these entities being able freely to distort, to change the message of an artwork. And what does the law say in this specific regard? As I said, in order to win these cases, the artist needs to show, to bring evidence that the use of the artwork has been prejudicial to her or his reputation or honor. It's a quite subjective assessment, right? The judge needs to decide whether the artist has been ridiculized to the eyes of the public, the general public, whether his or her reputation has been jeopardized. Inevitably, these kind of assessments attract subjective. I mean, they are quite subjective, right? So depending also on the judges, we might have different opinions and different rulings, I would say.
We have 1 minute to conclude.
1 minute, no, just this. I mean, basically, I have concluded. I hope that, judges might in the future be more receptive, be more careful and attentive towards the rights of the artist, especially in the French case. I mean, even if you may say, okay, in the French case, at the end of the day, the artwork was used just for 4 seconds, 5 seconds in those videos, but still, I mean, the fact that it was used just for 5 seconds does not really change the reality of the situation, right? So, having said that, I would like also to ask for the opinions of the other panelists and to ask them, if they were judges, what they would have decided in these cases.
Thank you so much. Enrico.
The last slide was for Lisbon. We can't be there, but hopefully next year, Pedro. Let's keep the fingers crossed.
We will. So if everyone goes to the destination on due time, it's okay. So if someone have some question to Enrico or some suggestion or want to play as a judge,
I think Anna has already the hand raised. Anna,
go, Gariso.
Yes, I think in the case of the French artist, for me, it would be more clear, because the second example for me raises another question, which is the artist herself used someone else's painting to do her work. So it's like a chain of artistic rights, which would make the decision very hard for me to take. Because it would be more absolute to just consider one of the artists to be in right of the work, but not the first one in the beginning. So, but I don't know anything about laws. And I also would like to ask if the moral integrity legislation is something that is general at least in Europe, or if it's a specific legislation for only some countries, because I really don't know how does it work.
Okay, the first question is, you're right, in both cases, La Marianne Asiatique in Paris and the Jesus Christ in Rome, they were reinterpretations of previous artworks in the public domain, right? But still, they were reinterpretations. I mean, there was originality. And there is originality in both cases. Actually, in the French case, the judge recognized that in abstract, that artwork is protected by copyright, right? Because even if it is a reinterpretation, a readaptation of an image which is quite old in the public domain, not protected by copyright, I mean, it's still a reinterpretation. These are called in the law, in copyright law, they are called derivative works, right? Derivative works. I mean, even in fine art, right? I mean, the Obama Hope poster by Shepard Fairey was a reinterpretation of a photograph, no? Taken by Associated Press. There was also litigation there, by the way, by Associated Press. But so your point is, well, Combo and Brabo, both artists in these two cases, they were inspired by previous works. And therefore, the politician in France and the Vatican in Rome, they should be free to use them, but the Vatican, the Vatican and the politician did not reinterpret anything. They just took it and used it in their own video or in the stamp. They didn't adapt. They didn't add anything creative. They just copied basically with a picture or with a video. So I would not say because the artists there, they reinterpreted some images, they cannot prevent others from blatantly appropriating their artworks, let's say. So this was my first point. The second point on the moral right of integrity, no, it's international. There is an international convention, which is the Berne Convention, signed by 180 states, so basically most states in the world. Article 6 bis grants the moral right of integrity. Well, then the way national courts interprets such a right may differ. Usually common law jurisdictions, so US, UK, Australia, Canada, they are quite timid. The moral right of integrity is not so protected. In continental Europe, Latin America, the moral right in general, the moral rights are more strongly protected. But as we have seen in this case in France, the artist has lost. Probably, as I said before, probably the fact that the politician and the artist, they are both leftist, probably was the main point why the judge decided that. I mean, I guess it would have been the opposite if Marine Le Pen on the far right had used the artwork, because in that case it was, you know, the leftist artist and the right-wing politician. Probably the decision would have been different. But still, I don't agree. I mean, since the appropriator does share your similar views, I think, I mean, that it should come down to the artist to decide, you know. So I have some. I think that an appeal might be different. Yeah.
I think we should launch over the subject. I don't know. I don't know about your idea. I don't know if everyone agrees with this, or if anyone has any questions.
What do you think, Pedro? What do you think about these cases?
No, I think I do agree with your position in both cases. Mostly the French one, I think it's not up to the state or to the institutions to appropriate the, you know, if they do not add any creative, any, you know, added value, if they are just using your work, even if it's on the same direction, it shouldn't be without the author permission.
Yeah. Probably,
but the problem here, as you well know, it's the fact that if the object is street art, usually it's differently treated than other kinds of pieces that are not on the street, or they are not given to the public views, you know.
Exactly. Different. I think that was the main reason why the court said had that position, because if it was a canvas, probably the
or an illustration or
on illustration, probably the politician would have asked permission first. But since it was in the street, they said, okay, you know, let's take it. At the end of the day, the artist will agree with me, because, you know, we know that the street artists are kind of left, most of them. You know, I think they might have the political campaign of Mélenchon, they might have fought that, right? But it's not fair. It's not fair. That's why in my research, in my academic research, I want to, you know, strengthen the right of art of street artists, because in my opinion, they are treated less fairly than fine artists.
Yes, it's a trajectory still to, you know, to develop. Well, I thank you very much for everyone. I'm a bit tired and I need to lunch now. So I see you all at 3, I hope. I will disconnect, and at 3 I will turn on again here the Zoom. Hopefully in another setting I will go home, not here in the coffee as I am now. So talk soon. Stay well.
Okay.
See you soon. I will put my